The gym fell silent as the TikTok video lit up the projector screen. Jace, Tyler, and Ricky laughing, mocking, their cruelty magnified for the whole school to see. Then the war hero they humiliated stepped forward, eyes like stone, and said, "You need to fear becoming men like you." But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Frank sat in his kitchen that evening, the old ceiling fan above him clicking with each slow rotation. The hum of crickets leaked in through the open window beside the table where he ate alone every night. His hands trembled slightly as he lifted the chipped ceramic mug to his lips, the smell of instant coffee filling his nose. His eyes, however, remained fixed on the flickering screen of his outdated iPad. There he was, on video, his limp exaggerated into a cartoon strut, his stiff posture mocked with slapstick sound effects. "Captain Cripple," the caption read, dancing in bold neon letters across the bottom. The boys' laughter echoed behind the clip. Frank watched it twice, then a third time, not because he didn't understand, but because he did. There was no anger at first, just a quiet stillness that settled over him like the weight of an old memory. He placed the mug down slowly, his fingers resting on its rim. His breathing deepened, not from rage, but from the awakening of something long buried, something disciplined, honed, and patient. He leaned back in his chair, spine straightening with the ghost of command. He had once given kill orders from aircraft carriers, once neutralized threats with a whisper and a nod. Now he lived alone in a peeling bungalow off Route 27, mowing his own lawn and eating microwaved dinners while the world passed him by. He had chosen peace, retired from the battlefield, retired from pain. Until now. The laughter in that video, it wasn't just mockery, it was erasure. Erasure of the men who never made it back, of the decades he spent trading pieces of his soul for the safety of strangers. These kids had no idea what kind of man they'd humiliated, no idea what it meant to spit on sacrifice and grin into a phone while doing it. Frank stood slowly, no limp now, just the measured posture of a man reacquainted with purpose. In the hallway, he opened the door to the hall closet. The coats and old photo albums were pushed aside to reveal a steel case, its edges worn but the latches untouched by time. He hadn't opened it in over 15 years. He hesitated for only a second, then clicked it open. Inside lay the past, an old field knife, still oiled, a burner phone he kept charged out of sheer habit, a folded document with faded redacted lines, evidence of things that never officially happened. And under it all, a black and white photo of his team, arms around each other, their faces sun-scorched and smiling, unaware it would be the last time they'd all stand together. He pulled out the knife and set it gently on the table beside his untouched coffee. Frank wasn't planning revenge, he was preparing a lesson. Because some things, he knew, couldn't be taught through words. Not to boys who had never been taught respect. Not to kids who thought war was a video game and honor a meme. They had laughed at a uniform without knowing what it meant. That was their first mistake. Their second was posting it. The fluorescent lights of the school auditorium flickered as students shuffled into their assigned rows, the buzz of teenage indifference thick in the air. Veterans Heritage Week had always been a forgettable blip on the calendar. A few flag-waving slideshows, an old Marine rambling about the Cold War, maybe someone's grandfather talking about boot camp. Nothing that could compete with phones, gossip, or the dopamine of notifications. Ellie sat 3 rows from the front, her posture rigid. She knew what was coming. She'd seen the change in her grandfather's eyes. Not anger, not pride, but a grave certainty. Like a man watching storm clouds gather, knowing the flood that would follow was inevitable. On stage, a modest banner hung behind the podium. Honor in silence, unsung stories of valor. There was no fanfare, no press, just a name on the program. Mr. Frank Delaney, retired U.S. Navy. Jace nudged Ricky with a smirk when the MC read it aloud. "No way. Is this Captain Cripple again?" Tyler stifled a laugh, scrolling through their old video. They didn't even look up when Frank stepped out from behind the curtain. He wore his full dress uniform, not a costume, not nostalgia. The real thing, pressed and immaculate, with ribbons that no one in the room recognized, some that didn't officially exist. His gait was measured, but his spine was iron straight. Every step downstage echoed with a silence that swallowed the auditorium whole. He didn't start with a greeting, didn't clear his throat. He just looked out across the sea of young faces, unblinking. "I'm Frank Delaney. I served in the United States Navy for 31 years. His voice was calm, clear, but it carried an edge like tempered steel. "I led men into places your history books will never name. I buried friends whose families never knew what happened to them. I've seen what happens when you forget that freedom isn't free, and when you mock those who paid for it." The auditorium shifted. Phones were slowly lowered. Eyes began to lock on his. Frank reached into his jacket and unfolded a photograph. It was cracked and creased, the faces sunburned and squinting under desert sky. "These men right here, this was my team, SEAL Team 6. This picture was taken 3 weeks before half of them were killed on a mission we were never supposed to survive." He paused, letting the silence breathe. "You don't know them. You never will. Because they didn't make TikToks. They didn't go viral. They died quiet deaths in foreign sand so you could laugh in parking lots." Jace's smirk faltered. Tyler stared at the floor. Ricky had stopped breathing entirely. Frank walked slowly across the stage, holding the photo like a sacred relic. "You think disrespect is funny, but disrespect reveals something about you. Not your targets, yourself. It's the language of cowards, of the weak trying to feel strong." He turned, facing the crowd full on now. "This week isn't about flags or parades. It's about remembrance, about confronting the truth that everything you take for granted was bought in blood by people you will never meet." A beat. 2. Then he stepped back from the podium. "I'm not here for applause. I'm here to remind you, respect is a choice, one that costs you nothing, but defines everything about who you are." He left the stage without another word. Not a single student spoke. The silence he left behind was louder than any ovation. The sun had barely dipped below the tree line when the new plaque was installed. Clean brass bolted to old brick, the letters sharp and proud. Delaney Hall. No ceremony, no ribbon cutting, just the soft scuff of footsteps as a janitor stepped back, nodded to no one in particular, and locked up for the night. Inside, the gym was empty now, echoing with the ghost of something bigger than applause. Not triumph, not spectacle, reverence. That morning, it had been just another school assembly, a mandatory block of time wedged between algebra and lunch. No one expected it to matter, certainly not Jace, Tyler, or Ricky, who had walked in, slouched and smug, still basking in the viral high of their mockery. But when Frank Delaney walked out onto that stage, shoulders square, uniform razor creased, medals gleaming like quiet thunder, they felt it. A shift, a fracture in the room's atmosphere, like static before a lightning strike. The principal's voice cracked slightly as he read Frank's introduction, words stumbling over citations and commendations so far above his head they may as well have been pulled from a war memorial. "Navy SEAL Commander, Operation Red Wave, Presidential Unit Citation." The titles blurred into silence as Frank stepped forward and took the microphone with the same calm control he'd once used to direct men through gunfire and chaos. "I didn't come here to impress you," he said plainly. "I came to remind you." Then came the footage. It started subtle, grainy clips of helicopters slicing through jungle mist, of soldiers knee-deep in riverbeds with eyes like steel. Then it escalated. Helmet cams from dark corridors, the thunder of boots breaching doors, blurred faces and redacted names, voices speaking in calm, practiced code. It was war without Hollywood polish, raw, intimate, terrifying. Frank narrated none of it. He didn't need to. Then the slide changed. The gym lights flickered as if the room itself recoiled. There they were, Jace, Tyler, Ricky, laughing, mocking, lips curled in teenage cruelty. The TikTok played in full. No filters, no edits, just them. Gasps rippled through the bleachers. A few students turned away, visibly sickened. Teachers shifted in their seats, stunned silent. Frank didn't flinch. "You want to be remembered?" he said quietly. "This is how. Not by what you build or who you protect, but by what you choose to tear down for a laugh." His gaze locked on theirs, not with rage, not with pity, with something far colder, expectation. "I buried 19 men younger than you, who never once disrespected a soul. Men who never saw their 20s. Men who would have taken a bullet for the kind of peace you mock." The silence grew unbearable. "You think I'm here to shame you? No. I'm here to offer you something you don't yet understand, a way back." That was all. He stepped down. No mic drop, no anthem, just the slow, firm echo of his footsteps. By lunch, Jace had deleted every video from his account. Tyler approached Ellie in the hallway. No excuses, just tears and a trembling, "I'm sorry." Ricky skipped class for the first time, not to smoke behind the gym, but to scrub the VFW bathrooms by hand, unasked. Frank never mentioned their names again. He didn't need to. He hadn't come for vengeance. He came bearing a lesson that only the bruised soul of a warrior could deliver. One carved from years of silence, sacrifice, and watching the country he bled for slowly forget the cost of its comfort. By week's end, respect was no longer something the students feigned for grades. It was real, earned, felt. Sometimes justice doesn't kick down doors. Sometimes it walks in with a limp, sets down its medals, and asks, "What kind of person do you want to be when no one is watching?" That question never left them. It still echoes in Delaney Hall.